Have you ever noticed that the hardest part of changing an organization isn't always knowing what needs to change? It's getting people to believe that the change is necessary in the first place. And that's exactly what makes today's Jharkhand exam controversy interesting from a management perspective. Students and the government job aspirants have been protesting over the alleged irregularities in the recruitment examinations, and the Jharkhand government has agreed to cancel three examinations, including the 14th JPSC and other examinations also. But the larger agitation and several demands are still part of the conversation. Now, you could look at this purely as an administrative or political issue, but let's look at it differently. Now, what if this is actually a change management case study? Because one of the most famous frameworks in the management is the John Kotter's 8-step change model. And this helps us to understand what happens when an existing system loses stakeholder confidence. And don't worry, we are not going to make this sound like an MBA textbook. Kotter's central idea is simple. You cannot successfully change a system just by announcing that it needs to be changed. People first need to understand why the change is necessary, then support it, participate in it, and eventually make the new system part of the culture. Kotter's 8 steps can broadly be understood in these three phases. The first is creating a climate for the change. Step one, create a sense of urgency. Basically, people need to realize that we cannot continue doing things the way we have always done them. Look at the Jharkhand situation. If students have lost confidence in the examination process, the problem isn't simply about one exam date. The deeper problem is trust. And once the stakeholders stop trusting a system, telling them to continue with the existing process may not work. So the obvious question becomes, why should I trust the next exam if I don't trust the system conducting it? And that's a change management problem. Step two is build a guiding coalition. Large systems cannot be transformed by one person sitting at the top and giving instructions. You need the stakeholders around the table, like the students, the administrators, the examination authorities, the officials, and the experts, because change needs legitimacy. अगर सिर्फ top management बोल रहा है that we are changing everything, that's an announcement. But when people affected by the change become a part of the conversation, you start building ownership. Step three, create a strategic vision. And here's an important distinction. The goal isn't simply let's cancel the exam. That's an immediate action. The bigger question is, what should a transparent, credible, and reliable examination system should look like? Because canceling an exam can happen quickly. Rebuilding trust takes much longer. Now we enter the quarter's second phase, that is engaging and enabling the organization. Step four, communicate the vision. People need to know what's changing, why it's changing, and what happens next. Step number five, remove the obstacles. You cannot tell people we want a transparent system while leaving the same processes, technology, and the accountability gaps untouched. That's not change. That's just a new announcement on an old system. Step six is generate short term wins. If the stakeholders are already skeptical, they need evidence that the new system is actually working, not slogans, evidence. Finally, we have the third phase, which is implementing and sustaining the change. Step number seven is consolidate the gains. Don't celebrate one successful reform, assume the problem is solved. ये नहीं करना है. Step number 8 is the anchor the new approach in the culture. Because if you improve the process today and return to the old habits 6 months later, nothing has really changed. Now, here's where this becomes extremely useful for your MBA interviews, GDs, and competitive exams. Imagine an interviewer asks you, how would you manage this resistance to the organizational change? Don't just say, I would communicate the benefits. That's very generic. Instead, you should say, I would establish urgency, build a stakeholder coalition, create a clear vision, and remove the implementation barriers, demonstrate short term wins, and institutionalize the new process. That's structured thinking. And the same approach works beautifully in a GD as well. So, if you're asked whether government should respond to the students' protest by making the concessions, don't immediately jump to say a yes or a no. You could say the deeper management issue is whether the stakeholder trust in the existing system has broken down. And if it has, then the leadership must address both the immediate conflict and the underlying process failure. Now, you are not just giving an opinion, you are analyzing the problem. And that's the real purpose of connecting the current affairs with the management frameworks. Current affairs gives you examples, the framework gives you the language to analyze it. And this isn't useful for MBA aspirants only, whether you're preparing for UPSC, banking, exams, government jobs, law, consulting interviews, campus placements, or simply want to become better at conversations. This skill matters because confidence doesn't come from knowing 500 facts. It comes from being able to take one fact and say, here's what actually happening underneath it. और वही real skill है. So coming back to Jharkhand, the larger leadership question is, when the stakeholder trust breaks down, do you defend the process or you redesign it? And Kotter's answer is that sustainable change requires more than one-time decision. You need to wake up, align, unblock, prove, and anchor. So remember today's takeaway. Don't confuse announcing the change with managing the change. If you can take one current affair story every day and connect it to one powerful framework, you are doing much more than preparing for an exam. You're training yourself to think like a manager, a consultant, a policymaker, and simply a person who can speak intelligently about what's happening around them. This is News Decoded and Priyasha over here. Don't just consume the news. Please decode the strategy behind it. If you like this breakdown, then please do hit that like button. Channel पे नए आए हो तो channel को जरूर subscribe कीजिएगा and share it with more and more people so that they get to know about Priyasha, right? Take care, guys. Thank you so much. See you in the next one. Bye bye.